Well, good morning on Wednesday, November 9th, 2022. This is Rob Ryder, and I want to talk about election mayhem because only the vote of registered qualified electors count, and you ain't one of them. You ain't one of them. I ain't one of them. We ain't one of them. They won't let us be one because they won't fill out the frickin' registration form. Yeah, let's talk about that. And I am Staff Sergeant Robert Allen Rutluski, U.S. Army veteran, also known as Rob Ryder. And my email address is courtofrecord@aol.com, which is really the best way to get a hold of me. I cannot respond to questions or anything on the comments on YouTube because they won't let me. Every time I try to do it, the question disappears, and so does my answer. So if you want to contact me, you got to do it by email, courtofrecord@aol.com. So let me show you something. Yesterday I went down to vote at the Township Hall, right? Michigan has townships, so I went to a Township Hall. And first thing you had to do is they want you to fill out this application to vote, poll list. Right? Talks about needing a picture ID, and if you don't have one, that you can do a affidavit, and the affidavit's on the back of the form, right, that you didn't have one. But the important thing is this right here. I certify that I am a United States citizen and a registered and qualified elector in this precinct, and hereby make application to vote at this election. Let me read that again. I certify I am a United States citizen, and what does that say? A registered, qualified elector in this precinct, and hereby make application to vote at this election. Well, that's what you ain't. You didn't register as a qualified elector in the precinct. Because to do that, you have to fill out a registration application, which requires you to swear to your statement before the clerk. And that's the part that's missing. Now, I've talked about these things numerous times, and just recently I talked about it to do with this election we just went through. Under Avery is the supreme law of the land, and constitutional sheriff call 911 and report an election emergency, right? Which is at Rob Ryder on YouTube, ROBBBRYDER. If you just click on videos and go down a little bit, you'll see them. And and technically, what I was showing in these to the next level is that the Township Hall you go to really isn't the election precinct that you're in. They went from townships to counties as being the local government back in 1968 because of a court case called Avery versus Midland County, Texas. I'm going to let you watch the videos if you're that interested to know more. But I just want to show you that, here's this form that you had to fill out. Now you're going to certify that you're a registered qualified elector, and you sign it. Well, if they find out later when they're doing their tabulation that you weren't, well, they don't have to count your vote, right? You lied. And this comes right out of the Michigan election law, so it's, it's all right here to be seen. The Michigan election law is called Act 116 of 1954, right? And it's actually Chapter 23 we're looking at, which is on page 105. So hang on a second here. Page 105. Which is, right, Chapter 23, registration of electors. And for our purposes, just to show, right, you go down here to registration of elector. This is what we're talking about, that you were a registered qualified elector. What does it take to do? Well, an elector entitled to registration, in other words, who's qualified, an election precinct may become registered in the precinct by applying in person and signing the registration application before the clerk or assistant clerk of the township, city, village in which the election, in which the precinct is located. For the performance of his or her duties under this act, each clerk or assistant clerk has the power to administer oaths and to swear persons as to the truth of their statement contained in the application. So registering as an elector is not the same as, registering to vote or applying to vote. You can't go down to the Michigan, like the Department of Motor Vehicles in Michigan, or the Michigan Secretary of State, actually, uh, and have them do this for you. You have to go to the township, city, or village in which the precinct is located. And when you get there, you have to stand before somebody, sign your damn application, and swear to the statements. If you didn't do that, you're not a registered qualified elector. Period. Doesn't matter what you think you did. All right, it didn't work. All right, so they have you. So now you go ahead and you vote and you do all this stuff. So you had to fill out this form. Then you went in and checked in, and they gave you your ballot and a little thing to put it in that had your in a little envelope place to stick this piece of paper in, right? This application. So you get all done and give it back to them. Well, they don't have to accept your vote if you weren't a registered qualified elector. So they can play with the numbers any way they want to, which is what they did, right? So I really don't have any more to tell you. I'm just pointing this out. So what happens next? Well, now we're going to have all these same criminals say that they've been elected again, like, Whitmer, or whoever you want to complain about. But what we have to remember at all times is, I wish I'd have had this pulled up for us first, so give me just a second, is this, that under the Constitution of the United States, right, 6th article, that the senators and representatives before mentioned and members of the several state legislatures and all ALL, all executive and judicial officers, both of the United States and of the several states, shall be bound by oath or affirmation to support this Constitution, but no religious test shall ever be required as a qualification to any office or public trust under the United States. And then, as is important, is the section just above, which says the Constitution and laws of the United States, which shall be made in pursuance thereof, and all treaties made, or which shall be made under the authority of the United States, shall be the supreme law of the land. And the judges in every state shall be bound thereby, anything the Constitution laws of any state to the contrary notwithstanding. Okay, well, what I'm going to show you now then is a couple of laws that would meet this criteria, which means these are the supreme law of the land. And that would be one Stat 23, which is the very first law that was ratified after that was passed after ratification of the Constitution, in which it says, jeepers, man, hang on here. There we go. In which it says, right, that the oath or affirmation required by the 6th article of the Constitution of the United States, well, we just looked at that, shall be administered in the following form, or in the form following, to wit, I, A.B., which would be your name, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States, period. Right, so this sentence right here, I mean, just the way it is, has to be the oath that is taken to satisfy the 6th article of the Constitution. And nobody takes this oath. Now, this was, this was the first law passed after ratification of the Constitution, June 1st, 1789. So why is it important that we do it just like this? Well, because this is the first law of the freaking country. If you're not going to follow the first law of the country, why would you follow any? So if you can't make somebody follow this law, how would you expect them to follow any laws? Well, they're not. There's your answer. And this goes on to say further in that they have to have a certificate or a record to prove that they took it. So it's on the person taking the oath to make sure that they have the certificate or the record to prove that they took this oath before they use any of the powers of their office. So later on, they took the same oath and they codified it and they put it into the United States Code, right? Where in Section 101 of Title IV, it says every executive or every member of the state legislature and every executive of the and judicial officer of a state shall, before he proceeds to execute the duties of his office, take an oath in the following form, to wit, I state your name, or I, A.B., do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States. Right? Such oath may be administered by any person who, by law of the state, is authorized to administer the oath of office, and the person so administering such oath shall cause a record or certificate thereof to be made in the same manner as by law of the state he is directed to record or certify the oath of office. So somebody has to have a copy of this oath that that the governor or the attorney general or the sheriff or anybody else claiming to hold an office in your state took this frickin' oath. All the judges, all the Supreme Court justices. And again, this isn't just for the state. This is, everybody who's in the 6th article. Right? The oath of affirmation required by the 6th article. Well, who was that again? Well, it'd be all, A-L-L, all executive and judicial officers, both of the United States and of the several states. So every Supreme Court, a United States justice, every judge of a district court or an appeals court or whatever else they want to call it, every representative, every senator, so forth and so on, and none of them have taken this oath. I've shown it numerous times, but because I'm doing this video, I guess I'll show it one more time. So hang on just a second. Yeah, so here's Title II, United States Code, right? Chapter 2, which has to do with organization of Congress. And it talks about oath of senators, oath of president senators, oath of president Senate, presiding officer, Senate may administer oaths, So let's take a look, see what this has to tell us. All right, here it talks about the oath of senators. So the oath of office shall be administered by the president of the Senate to each senator who shall be elected previous to his taking his seat. Right, and that's RS, which is Revised Statute 28. So, right, this is out of the code. Before there was the code, there was the revised statutes. And the Revised Statute 28 derived from an act of June 1st, 1789, which is 1 Stat 23. Well, that's what we just looked at. So this is saying they need to take this oath right here. Now, you can go, find videos on YouTube of these yahoos taking an oath after the last election where, they're not taking the words that you see there. They're taking this other oath that we're going to look at in just a second. But they didn't take this oath. So, this is the oath they're supposed to take. The one in 1 Stat 23, and they didn't do it. Okay, so that's the Senate. Now let's go find House of Representatives. Right? At the first session of Congress, after the general election of representatives, the oath of office shall be administered to any member of the House of Representatives and to the Speaker, and by the Speaker to all members and delegates present, and to the clerk previous to entering any other business, and to any member, delegates who afterwards appear previous to their taking their seats. The clerk of the House of Representatives, the 80th in each succeeding Congress, so we're up to the 117th, so that includes this one, shall cause the oath of office to be printed, furnish 2 copies to each member and delegate who has taken the oath of office in accordance with law, which shall be subscribed in person by the member or delegate who shall thereupon deliver to the clerk, one to be filed in the records of the House of Representatives, that would be with the clerk then, and the other to be recorded in the Journal of the House, in the Congressional Record, in the Journal of the House, and in the Congressional Record. So the 2 different things, right? There's a Journal of the House, that's one document, and there's the Congressional Record, which is another document. And each signed copy or certified copies thereof, or either of such record thereof, shall be admissible in evidence in any court of the United States, and shall be held conclusive proof of the fact that the signer duly took the oath of office in accordance with law. And it goes here, RS 30. Well, RS 30 derived from the Act of June 1st, 1789, which is what? Well, that'd be your 1 Stat 23 again. Which means, they have to take this oath here, 1 Stat 23. Well, let's see what they do. Right? So this is the last time around, or 117th Congress. And this is on January 28th, which technically we should be looking at as January 3rd, the first day back, because this would be the first order of business. But for whatever reason, it wasn't until this date that they actually put it into the congressional record. Right? So after they adjourned for the day, now we're going to try to slip this information in the congressional record, right? Oath of office, members, residents, da-da-da-da. So the oath of office required by the 6th Article of the Constitution of the United States, comma, and as provided by the Section 2 of Act May 13th, 1884, to be administered to members, right? So they have to take 2 oaths. Right, well, the second one here is, right, this is the one from May 3rd, 1884, which is now in 5 U.S.C. 3331. Right, I, state your name, you solemnly swear or affirm, da-da-da, so help me God. Well, that's a religious test. So this oath cannot in any way satisfy the 6th article. It's got a religious test in it. But they took it anyways, right? This is the one they put in. But there's nothing in here saying that they took the oath that satisfies the 6th article of the Constitution. Which said, in the following form, or in the form following, to wit, I, A.B., do solemnly swear or affirm, as case may be, I will support the Constitution of the United States. They didn't do it. And they're not going to do it again, right? And this is supposed to be admissible, right? So whatever they did or did not do, there's supposed to be a copy of it, and it's supposed to be with the clerk, and then another copy go to the congressional record. So we just saw what they did, so we know what they did not do. They did not take the oath to satisfy the 6th article, which is RS 30, revised statute 30, which came from statutes at large, June 1st, 1789, 1 Stat 23. And it didn't happen. So, that's the situation of the United States that we're in. Don't let these people bullshit you about anything, right? Your vote didn't count because you didn't register and qualify as an elector. And if you go down and try to do that, per this law, right, per the election law, right, elector entitled to register in an election precinct may become registered in a precinct by applying in person and signing a registration application before the clerk or assistant clerk of the township, city, or village in which the precinct is located. And for the performance of his or her duties under this act, each clerk or assistant clerk has the power to administer oaths to swear persons as to the truth and statements contained in the application. And they didn't do it. There's one last thing I want to show you on this, right? If we go back up here. What was it? County officers, page 37. So the people running this election are supposed to be county officers, right? And what it says in here about county officers is, county officer eligibility, a person shall not be eligible to the office of county clerk, county treasurer, register of deeds, prosecuting attorney, sheriff, drain commissioner, surveyor, or coroner if the person is not a registered and qualified elector of the county in which the election is sought by filing deadline. So if you're going to court, in Michigan, the prosecuting attorney has to have taken this oath, or has to be a registered and qualified elector of the county. Well, make them prove it. If they can't prove it, then they're not. This is what the law says. Right? So we'll get into that in my next video. I want to talk about this Supreme Court. What would this have been? This was a dissent by Gorsuch, right, that has a lot to do with what's going on even with these elections. Anyways, that's it for today. This is just, it's another day in America where if you went to vote and you think that your vote counted, well, it didn't. and it's simply because you're not a registered and qualified elector, which requires you to go before the clerk, swear to your statements on the registration application, right, before somebody who's qualified to administer the oath. And nobody has done that. I'm not saying nobody, but none of us, right? Now, I'm not saying there are not people on the inside that don't know this, and they have, but they're not letting us do it. And as a result, we have the situation we're living with today. Okay, you all have a great day, and we'll see what happens next. Maybe the military will show up. All right, have a good day. Bye.